tell you, if the people at 115 Federal were to see an article critical of their work written anywhere, the one place they'd probably least like to see it is where it showed up yesterday. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. The place where the article ran was FanGraphs. If you're not familiar with FanGraphs, consider that to be the active, vibrant, holy Bible of the sports advanced analytics, of the people who think the game at a different level, or in some cases, just think that they think the game at a different level, depending on the quality of that work. In this event, the author, Ben Clemens, someone I do not know and respectfully here had not heard his name once before in my life until this article, put together something under the headline, "The Pirates' Approach to Getting Paul Skeens to the Playoffs? Sign Adam Frazier and Tim Meza," which, of course, obviously is intended to be tongue-in-cheek. And actually, it's really, really nice headline, I must say. And I also must say, this isn't all that easy for me, but as the guy who just spent the past 2 episodes of this particular podcast picking apart the signings of Meza and then Frazier in that order expressly for this purpose, dude kicked my behind. This is packaged so much better than those shows were. This makes the point so much more powerfully than I did. Now, I'd encourage you to go read this yourself, and I'm not interested in, getting into some exercise where I read the whole thing on the show. The individual did some fine work, but I'm going to have one little piece of it for this episode. And I quote directly here, "Let's review. I like each of these signings on their own. I think both players have a reasonable chance of contributing as back of the roster role players in 2025, and for less than $3 million combined, that's just good business. Now let's get to the bigger picture. I absolutely hate what the Pirates are doing this offseason, these signings included. Skeens is a franchise-altering player. The Pirates are going to be paying one of the best players in baseball peanuts for the next 5 years. Opportunities like that don't come around often. We're talking Steven Strasburg, Bryce Harper, Joe Mauer, David Price, Adley Rutschman. When you draft a player this good, you should build a team around him. The Pirates are building a team. It's just not a contending team. They took one that won 76 games. They traded for Spencer Horwitz, wiped their hands together, and said the job is done." Yowza. See what I mean? It's not any different than what I was sharing with you. It's just, maybe it benefits from coming from some outside perspective. Again, I don't know this individual. I'm going to presume that he's not from Pittsburgh. He clearly has an intense following of baseball in general, and maybe of the Pirates. Not someone who covers the Pirates for sure. But maybe that's the sort of thing that's needed. Maybe what happens, there's 3 angles to this. There's my angle, or the media angle, if you will. There's your angle, the fan angle, and then there's the Pirates' own angle, whatever their motivation might actually be. And if all 3 of these are just putting forth the same stuff we've been saying for years, including with previous management, even in some cases, previous ownership, then the whole dialogue can very easily be dismissed by any of us. But when somebody comes in with a fresh, and I thought fair, perspective. First off, on these really minor acquisitions, he got into all kinds of detail about both Meza and Frazier and what they can do, what they can't do, what their value is, blah, 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 before then making his general point anyway and seeming to arrive at that conclusion without any sort of, past experiences influencing him or darkening his mood. And you can accuse me of that one easily. Then that's something that should, I say, have more of an impact than something that any of us says. The problem is, and this individual reaches no conclusion at all other than the possibility that the Pirates are cheap, which they of course are. It still becomes just excruciating to attempt to explain why they're behaving as they do, unless you come up with something like I have, which is that they're just not competitive people. They're more interested in showing people that they're smart and that they can make smart moves than they are in actually winning games. Isn't it funny though? Because the FanGraphs types are a big, big part of who they're trying to look smart to, and they sure look kind of dumb right now. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Nick, who says, hey, DK, these guys aren't dumb. They actually found an advantage to job the system. Elvis Alvarado, split contract for $1 million or so. He's DFA'd and he won't get claimed because of the $1 million on his contract and the claimant using up a roster spot. He stays in the system, has an opportunity to come back if he figures it out as depth, no harm, no foul. Adam Frazier, major league contract, $1.5 million. At some time early this season, or maybe at the end of spring training, he gets DFA'd. If somebody wants him for that $1.5 million, they can have him, or he can go to AAA and act as depth. Minimal cost, no harm, no foul, extra roster spot. Think of it this way. It's their attempt to build a higher level of system depth while not sacrificing roster spots. Whew. Okay, let's do that. It's thinking this in a different way, which I always appreciate. And basically, for anybody who didn't understand a lot of that baseball personnel movement speak, what Nick is saying is that the Pirates would price these guys at an uncomfortably high level. So if they do go through to the minors or get put on waivers or wherever, the Pirates would still be able to keep some of them and pay them, but they do so while they're in Indianapolis, guaranteeing depth. Sounds neat, right? Sounds clever. In fact, I can cross sport here for a moment and share that that's something that the Penguins general manager, Kyle Dubas, began doing this year with the Penguins' own roster. He started paying a couple guys a lot more than they would normally get to be in the minor leagues for that purpose, just so that the Penguins could have somebody if needed. Sounds good. What's the problem? They don't have a major league roster. That's the problem. This is, let's say you're right, Nick, okay? This is them yet again, and I'm being hypothetical here based on your scenario, right? This is them yet again acting as if they're good when in fact they are not good. They do this in a lot of different ways, a lot of different contexts. And they'll even attempt to justify it by saying, well, this is just, standard practice in the industry right now. Well, you're not a standard team. You're the Pirates. You don't have a standard background. You don't have a standard recent, 40 years of history upon which to lean. But it makes them feel kind of comfortable, like they're part of the fraternity, they're just one of the teams. So rather than attempting to do real independent thinking, real innovation, Moneyball stuff, actual Moneyball stuff, the founding principles of Billy Beane whenever he took over in Oakland. It wasn't just to find the overweight kid who had a high on-base percentage. What Beane was all about was when they're zigging, we zag. When they overvalue something, we look for something else. They were in constant renegade mode. So here are the Pirates in your scenario, Nick, saying, well, we've already got this loaded roster. So what we need to do is make sure that we've got enough depth. We're kind of worried that we're not going to be able to sneak this depth through to Indianapolis. It's absurd. It's obscene. It's actually, in a lot of ways, more offensive than just thinking they made, mind-numbing signings. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. Going to do another one of these tomorrow.